So obviously, training camp is always new beginning, new season, new hope. I mean, have you walked in here with a certain philosophy that you want to tell the players?
Not anything different than last year. We're going to try and improve every day. The big thing we're stressing is we believe we have enough talent here to set the playoffs as a goal of ours. So that's what our players are going to hear from day one, meaning today. Brian and I will address the group tonight, and I'm really looking forward to it. There's a different sense with the people that we brought in, just a different sense around the team right now.
You look at the guys that were brought in, it's safe to say this team at the very least won't be pushed around anymore?
No, we won't be pushed around. I think all of the players we brought in bring a positive attitude as well. They're all very competitive. I don't think it's necessarily about, beating people up or whatever everybody seems to think we're going to do. I think it's about having competitive people in that room who push each other to get better every day, and that's what we want.
A lot of times in camp, too, I mean, you've got tough guys that are notorious for dropping gloves. Is that something you'd frown against in camp, kind of keep it to the games and not try to get on each other?
Yeah, we're going to mention to the team tonight we don't really want to see any fisticuffs in scrimmages. Now, inevitably something could happen, but hopefully the younger officials will have, if you see two guys square off and back up, I think we'll try to jump in there right away. You can't control something that's spontaneous, and they fight before anybody has a chance to jump in. We'll give all the people that we know. We know who's tough on this team, and we'd save it for the exhibition games. And fighting each other in practice isn't going to prove anything. We want everybody to compete hard and push each other in the drills and the scrimmages. Show us where they kind of fit on our depth chart. But the toughness part we know all about. Whether it's they've already played in the NHL or kids from junior or college, we know what they can do. We want them to hold back until we play other teams.
On the subject of utilizing your scrimmages and your exhibition games, you've got a lot to get through here. You've got goaltenders to analyze, defense, forwards. You only have 9 exhibition games. So
only 9? We play more exhibition games than anybody. Be honest with you, I wish we only had 5 or 6 exhibition games. But no, the first, the games that we play this week, you'll probably see a healthy mix. We'll have 4 or 5 young guys I really want to get a look at. And obviously our goaltending's really, a 3-man kind of battle, including Joey McDonald in there. So I've already put together like a phantom lineups for the first 4 games. You have to kind of plan that way. So that you can be organized in practices. I'm sure it'll change, but you're going to see a lot of 4 or 5 of those kids who just got back from Kitchener will play a heavy load in the first 4 games, and then we'll be using some guys with the Marlies going to Scotland, and some of them have already been penciled in for that trip. Some of those guys will be playing in the early exhibition games as well, and more of our veterans. Guys who played here last year won't play as much early. We'll have the 5 exhibition games after this week where they can show us what they can do. But I'll try to get everybody involved this week. We have a lot more players that I would say are deserving of exhibition games than we had last year. So we'll see. We just play it by ear.
Well, last year you proved that you had an open mind when there was so much talk about whether Luke Shen would make the lineup. Safe to say that it doesn't matter the age out there. If they can make the lineup, they're in it?
Yeah. Well, you've heard Brian's comments. If I think there's 5 rookies who could make the team, then he won't prevent us from using those 5 guys, and then he would really have to do a pretty good dance to clean up some space for these guys. But last 4 or 5 years in the league, I would say on average of all the coaches, I probably had on average the youngest team, and I wouldn't hesitate to do the same thing, thinking of the future of the franchise, as long as it doesn't deter us from what our goal is this year of making the playoffs.
With the addition of the new defenseman. How will that change the role of Thomas Kaberle?
That shouldn't change his role at all. He should be out there with maybe, for example, a Mike Komisarek and free up. He'll have. I don't think he's going to have to worry about getting his face punched into the glass or anything like that. I hope that Cabby will be able to play 27 or 28 minutes a game. We've got some. We're bringing in Mike Komisarek. Francois Beauchemin averaged the most minutes in Anaheim. Nobody ever writes that, but he played more minutes than Pronger and Niedermeyer. So we've got some big minute guys back there. So we'll have our top four and then a real battle for the fifth and sixth positions for ice time.
I know you have to score goals and you have to stop pucks to win games, but just to have a little bit more of an intimidating group with this team, so other teams kind of look at you differently. Does that make a difference to have these guys in here that don't take crap?
Yeah, when they're big doesn't mean that that's going to affect you defensively or offensively. For example, Milan Lucic in Boston is going to be a great goal scorer in our league, and yet he's intimidating. And we want to be an intimidating team. We want, as Brian says, to have an environment where our younger players play in a fear-free environment, and that's what we're going to try and create.
How do you think this year's, battle on defense will be different than last year? You had 9 guys last year, you have 9 guys again this year.
No, it should be essentially about the same. We don't have a Luke Shen knocking on the door to get in. We just have an honest competition with everybody, and assuming that our players are in good shape, which every indication is they are, much better than last year. I shouldn't even say there's a top 4 because, to be perfectly honest with you, I'd be dishonest in allowing a guy to play who isn't really ready. So it'll be a battle. I'm not opposed. Everybody's speculating who the 4 or 5 guys are on the outside, but I'll keep an open mind right through training camp.
Teams traditionally work on special teams in that towards the last part of camp, given your difficulties in those areas last year. Is it fair to say, where you can, you'll try and work on that early?
You know what? If we had scored 2 more power play goals on the whole season, we would have finished in the top 10. Penalty killing is a direct reflection of your goaltending. If we have the goaltending that we expect this year, I'm not particularly worried. And we have personnel that's a lot different than we had last year. A couple of guys on defense, Beauchemin and Komisarek, are very good penalty killers. So just some changes in personnel. I'm not going to really worry about that. We want to establish a type of team in the first week of training camp. Once we get our numbers down, then we'll focus on special teams. But with 60 guys on the ice, you don't really worry about special teams. You're trying to allow these guys to show you what they can do in the first 3 days of training camp and these exhibition games.
And what are your expectations for Vesa now that he's been surgically repaired?
I expect Vesa to be our number 1 goalie and play like one. Simple.